So what you see here occurred over the weekend at the Genesee County Jail. The deputy Forrest Bradley, who just treated an inmate that overdosed with fentanyl in a holding cell that was brought in through the rectal cavity of another inmate. Forrest and the medical team responded, and shortly after the inmate was transported, this is him leaving the Genesee County Jail for the end of his shift, working 17 hours. Unbeknownst to him, the fentanyl that he was exposed to is now overdosing him. Forrest, what's going on in your mind right now?
So at this point, I kind of blacked out for some of this, but until I start standing up again, walking back towards the door, I just remember I just need to find someone. I can't go down here because if I do, I won't be found for a while.
Do you remember if you were able to have conscious thoughts? Do you remember if you were able to call for help, or were you completely...
I just remember my body going numb, and my lungs felt like they cramped up, and it's just hard to get a breath in me.
Now this is the back hallway leading out. You go back into the jail. Why do you do this, and how did you get the strength to do that?
I just knew that's where someone was that would find me, so I don't remember how I did. I just kind of remember getting up and knowing I can't go down here.
To the top of the screen, you'll see Center Control. The deputy runs over and calls it code blue. You go to your knees on this one. Do you remember this?
At this point, I blacked out again. I remember someone grabbing me, and then I passed out.
So we're going to take you back to what happened. Forrest, you're working here at the Genesee County Jail on Friday night.
Yes, sir.
Just last week.
Yes, sir.
And we hired you. You started 2 months ago. Your partner, who also got jammed up and got infected, was here since last year. You've been in this field just for a little bit. You're a public safety officer at Hurley at one point. We hire you here.
Yes, sir.
Never exposed to any opiates in your life?
No, sir.
Ever drank before in your life?
I've never been drunk.
And because of what you felt, you knew because of your training that something was going on. Or what's your training?
I'm certified as a paramedic.
So you treat the inmate who overdosed. I'll tell that story in a second. And then you yourself go down. And what do you do to the responding staff? This is what's heroic about this guy.
I just remember when I went down, I remember someone saying, "Hey, you've got to talk us through this. We don't know what we're doing," you know. And I remember telling them, "Listen, I've got it on me. Just wash me off. Give me some oxygen. And when I stop talking, you just start Narcaning me until I start talking again."
The presence of mind, knowing that you're overdosing unintentionally because of exposure to an inmate, you tell the medical staff that is not an emergency medicine team, but they're asking you what to do. We carry nasal Narcan. You have one in your pocket you gave to me?
Yes, sir.
This nasal Narcan we have promoted all the time. You carry it with you. We have it everywhere. Did the staff here at the Genesee County Jail Narcan you?
Yes, sir.
How many times do you think?
I believe I was told it was approximately 4 to 5 times.
Nasal Narcan.
Nasal Narcan.
So these Narcans are just single doses. So they're going through 4 or 5 of these. At the same time that's happening, the inmate that overdosed is on his way to Hurley. You are transported to Hurley. Do you remember that transportation at all?
Kind of in and out of the memory there. I remember them talking to me going out, and them coming back saying they said I'd passed out again. They said they Narcaned me again. I remember pulling up to Hurley, and I remember they had Narcaned me a second time in the ambulance. And I kind of blacked out again until I was inside the hospital.
And then when you're inside, you spent 2 days with 100 people. And this is now July 27th, and the stats for 2 weeks ago, 137. You could have been 138. Unintentional. You got a family, you got people that love you. Did you ever think it would happen that fast?
I did not believe so. I didn't think I'd be exposed like that, because I was clocking out and on my way home.
You have no control.
No.
And here's the thing: is he was on his way home, getting in a car. God forbid that were somebody that you were able to get in your car, and it started back then, and then who knows what could have happened. I mean, you actually fell out in the jail, and the staff and the system was able to work.
Yes, sir.
Now, we want to thank not only the medical staff, but the paramedic division that responded. Lieutenant Priest, I think, was there responding.
Yes, sir.
The Hurley staff, of which you used to work with,
Mm-hmm.
but as well as the family of both Deputy Hall and Deputy Bradley. You have been with us from the beginning. It sends a message to us in the jail. What did you learn from this?
I learned to be much more careful when dealing with fentanyl overdoses. I've dealt with them numerous times as a EMT and working the road. And then dealing with this time, I've learned to be much more cautious, stay a little later, make sure I'm not affected after dealing with pure fentanyl.
Yeah. You also have a message for other people, the DEPs that helped you, the staff that was here to serve you, the staff at Hurley Hospital. What would you want to say to them?
I tell them thank you. All the other deputies, medical staff, saved my life that night. So I definitely was on my way out. I remember my lungs cramping up and just can't get a breath in. And when they got there and they took care of me, I knew I felt that I was going to be all right once the staff got to me.
So this inmate that comes in, Mr. Hill, he's arrested and brought in, and unbeknownst to the arresting agency, and we do strip searches to all inmates under MDLC guidelines, he had taken a bag of heroin, fentanyl, and put it in his anal cavity. And while he was in the general housing, which can sometimes be 30, 40 inmates, we have video of him going into the bathroom multiple times. He defecated it out. He pulled the bag and found it. He himself took a dose of the heroin, fentanyl, that he excreted. And at the same time, the deputies are transferring from that cell to a different one. He dropped the bag. And we have that on video. Another inmate picks it up. That's the inmate that Bradley and the staff saved because that inmate overdosed, and that's the inmate that exposed the deputies. So I just want to say as the sheriff, when you see the system work and when you see heroes like you that not only serve and protect the population that we oversee, but yet you are here back to work and you're less than a week out and you're eager, that just says so much about this profession. Do you have a message for anybody out there, whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're in EMS, whether you're in public service, whether you're a teacher, no matter what message you want to say when you want to talk about the danger of fentanyl and exposure to?
I think the message is definitely become aware of it, start learning it, get access to Narcan if you can. It definitely will save your life if you're exposed, and it can happen way faster than people believe it can. And most of us, especially in this line of work, we believe we're there to save people. We don't think we're going to be the one going down.
Yeah.
So we kind of forget to look at that sometimes.
And thank God you're licensed, you're a medic and you understand the process and you have Narcan available. Again, if you don't know where to get Narcan, our friends at the Odyssey House, hospitals, doctor's offices, you can come to the sheriff's office. We will give it to you. You should never, ever, ever pay for Narcan, ever. If anybody tries to charge you, you go find some place that's going to give it for free. This is what saved your life. If you did not have Narcan and you were alone by yourself, what could have happened?
I probably would have passed away that night.
Didn't happen here. That's our message to you. I just want to say congratulations. We do an awards banquet the first Thursday of every November coming around, and I just want you to know you and your partner and many others are going to get recognized, but you are what we represent, and that is being a hero with integrity. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir.
I hope that you just thank somebody and you are encouraged by this story. We're going to keep tracking this inmate that brought that in and was charged with multiple counts. He knew exactly what he did. The prosecutor's office, David Layton, charged him with harmful devices, count 1, count 2, assault on a police officer, bringing contraband into a prison and a jail, count 6, furnishing contraband, and possession of a controlled substance. So he'll be held accountable for that in addition to the charges that he was brought here. The next story I want to tell you is very disturbing, and I try to cover the gamut when it comes to these weekly briefings, and sometimes it's just a heavy topic. And although we celebrated Forrest's recovery and that incident, this is another heavy topic. I want you to see this face, okay? This is Tyson Tiggs. That's his AKA. Stokes King Tiggs. He's in jail right now. He's on a 17-count felony warrant. He's held here, no bond, thanks to Judge Gwynn. But there's a story behind this, and Lieutenant Kennemer was one of the lead detectives on the story. I'm going to plant a seed, and I know the media doesn't like this part, but it's a spinoff of another story that will bring you in a little bit. This is why when you do great investigations and you have a great investigator with a great team, You can't just look at things one-dimensional. Many times, simple things lead into massive, massive circles of investigation. The reason I call this a serial rapist, because that's exactly what happens. He was convicted of a 2005 criminal sexual conduct. Went to prison. Came out. He was on parole. And after he was on parole, his first victim was a 19-year-old special needs male.
You know, when we do these kind of investigations, what led into it is we have a philosophy of finishing the call, finishing the investigation. So we don't just start and stop at the surface. We kind of dig in deep to see what else we can do, who else needs help, whether it's victims or perpetrators sometimes. And that's what led into this investigation.
The 19-year-old special needs victim was brought into a secured location, a halfway house, where this individual was held after he got out of prison, and using grooming techniques, of which we talk about, using leverage and threats, he convinced this 19-year-old to keep coming back, and that grooming tactic convinced this individual to even shave his entire body to look younger.
It's a prime case study in what we talk about all the time in Ghosts, about grooming tactics, finding the vulnerable people, people that don't have people watching out for them, and taking advantage of that situation. This is a prime example of someone that did that.
And the 19-year-old we speak of, victim number one, post-prison, was not only special needs, but also a former foster kid. The kids that we know through our ghost rescues are the most vulnerable. That's why we try to identify them and give them a path. We give them an ability to reach out to somebody that can look out for them. But that was just the first victim. The second victim was another 19-year-old special needs female. Now, the male had the mental capacity of a 9-year-old. The female is a severe autistic female on the spectrum that is not able to make their own decision. What happened there?
Well, he provided her some form of date rape drug when he encountered her. We don't know what that is. That was several years ago. And then he drug her into the bathroom and he violently raped her.
So we know that first victim was probably assaulted over 50 times. This individual, the 19-year-old female, brought into a house, given a mixture. There's a lot of things. It's really a very heavy cough syrup that creates almost a lethargic state, and that's what happened here. There were witnesses that actually heard this victim scream. Not to be brutal, but I want you to see how important these ghost cases are. What about that?
So there were young children there that were able to witness and give a statement of what they heard as this assault took place. And I can't imagine if it would have allowed to continue, what would have happened to them as well.
So as we speak now, we have already taken care of victim number one. Victim number two, that I just mentioned, we're with as we speak. Because part of our ghost operation is not just education and awareness and enforcement and operators like Lieutenant and all the staff at the Sheriff's Office, ghost operators, but it's the aftercare. We provide them aftercare. How do you get back on your feet? How do you maintain a life of progress? And how do you maintain a life of value going through such trauma? That's not the only two victims. Victims number 3 and 4, how old were they?
11-year-olds, 11-year-old boys.
So he goes and he rents a hotel room off of Dordt Highway, and he uses that as his lair to groom additional kids. In this case, he did it through clothing and marijuana.
Yeah. They actually took a video of when he provided a marijuana cigarette to him and recorded the kid smoking it.
11 years old.
11 years old.
So he assaulted these two 11-year-old boys. They are not related, but they lived in the same area. But that's not the only victim that we have. We have another 14-year-old.
I had a 14-year-old. And when the 14-year-old heard about the 11-year-olds, he confronts them. And Tiggs actually...
As though, like, he's trying to be a hero and protect her.
Yes. And then Tiggs actually physically assaults him and to the point of strangulation. And, you know, I can't imagine what he was going through. He outweighs our 14-year-old by 150 pounds.
So to the 14-year-old, you're a hero. You did the right thing. And you almost gave your life to protect the lives of two 11-year-olds. And that's what we're talking about. This thing has a lot of legs that we are working as we speak. But the reason we bring this case to you, because we have two 19-year-old special needs victims. We have two 11-year-old boys, a 14-year-old boy who was choked out. We have charges of kidnapping where he kept people from leaving, kept people from getting help, and we know there's more. We know there's more. And he targeted people that were homeless. He targeted people that were in the foster system, special needs. He targeted vulnerable people. And we bring this to you because when you see the pattern of what Tiggs does, he's locked up. He's going away for, I hope, that the system for the rest of his life, because that final charge, the 17, is a habitual offender charge. So he's got 16 new charges. Prosecutor Layton had 3 counts of kidnapping, 4 counts of CSC first degree, 4 counts of CSC second degree, 2 counts of accosting a child for immoral purposes, 1 count of indecent exposure, and 2 counts of extortion. That's the kind of heavy charges. You know, I said before, this office protects, serves, and unifies. And sometimes that protection, it bears a mighty sword. And we will protect our people by holding people like Tiggs accountable. We think there's more, don't we?
I do. When you look at the counts that we know of, started in 2019, and we didn't have him in custody until last week. So from that 2019 time, how many more people could he have had contact with? And if we can bring justice to one of them, that's what we do. That's what finishing the call is.
And let me just answer a question you may have is, if it started in 20 and 21 and 22, why are we just hearing about it? Ghost was just given the information less than 2 weeks ago. And the information that we got came from another victim in another case. That's how important it is for us to protect victims, because you have a mighty voice. And when you know that you're surrounded by people that will protect you and give you that voice, then you can come forward and be protected. And we think that's happening now. So Lieutenant Kennemer is the officer in charge of the case with Sergeant Nicholson. The entire Detective Bureau had their hand in rolling this case out. But we want you to know that there are some out there that we think we need to talk to. And if you have a story to tell, whether it's this case or any other case, you can come to Ghost. We'll protect you. 810-257-3422. 810-257-3422. We have a 24-hour dispatch. You can actually walk into the sheriff's jail and just ask for help, and we will be there. Many people have done it in the past. When you see a case like this, and you're a seasoned investigator, what message do you want to tell people? You yourself have kids.
Yeah. What I focus on, we sacrifice as detectives time with our family, time with, I've missed birthdays, I've missed Christmases, but this is the type of cases that it makes it all worth it, right? When we can finish the call and bring a man like that into justice, then how many more people have we saved going forward?
That's right.
The stats that we have with 25 victims for 1 pedophile, we have this guy right now where I know of 5 victims.
And we use that stat from our national exposure and our involvement with international operations. When you hold people accountable, it saves the lives of 25 future victims. And those are both underage and vulnerable adults. So we don't normally open it up for questions, but we have our 3 media outlets here, Channel 5, Mid-Michigan, Channel 12. I know there's some reporters here. So whether it's Deputy Bradley's case, Deputy Hall's case, the overdose, or this case, are there any questions from our media friends?
You mentioned at the beginning that he is being held without bond. In the recent weeks, we've seen people being let out with no bond or reduced bond. So why is it important that someone like this is kept off the streets?
So what Courtney's talking about is we are in jail overcrowding, and we're actually day 33. And there's a state law that requires jails that are rated, and our jail is at 580. If it goes above that over a 7-day period, we have a protocol. However, that protocol protects people from being released like Tiggs. There are many people in jail that are not life offenders like he is. In fact, 60% of our population today in the jail are here for 20-year life offenses. So we don't let people like that out. But there are people in here that judges sentence for other crimes, non-assaultive, or crimes that have shown that while they're here, they've not been a problem, and the law requires the judges to reduce bonds and let them out on tether.
And how did he meet these victims? How was he communicating with them?
So the question is, how does Tiggs meet and communicate with these victims? That's what predators do. This is their business. And if you look at a serial predator like Tiggs, he puts himself in positions where vulnerable people are found. The first 19-year-old, it's a sad case. He himself was abused until he turned 18, and his abusers kicked him out. From 18 to 19, he was homeless. A 19-year-old special needs kids with the mental capacity of a 9-year-old was sleeping in abandoned houses. And Tiggs saw that, and he brought him in. And he actually hid him out in his room at the halfway house while he assaulted him time and time again.
What about the other cases?
Same thing. You have people that go to the 19-year-old female case. He went to a house. She was there. He forced himself on her. It was a moment where he grabbed her. He drugged her. He went there probably to rape her. The two 11-year-old boys, again, he was staying in an extended stay motel, and those boys also were staying there. That's not uncommon. And he groomed them. As it was mentioned by Lieutenant Kennemer, he would use marijuana, he used clothing, and once they get you into their trap, it's all force. That's why they're predators. They seek out prey.
In regards to the halfway house, you've got a lot of oversight in those facilities. I mean, they're primarily used for people that are transitioning out of prison, they're on parole. How is this able to happen in a halfway house? And what is happening with that halfway house in terms of an investigation?
So that's Denise from Channel 12 and asked the question about how does it happen in a halfway house and what are we doing about it, which goes back to my original statement that this is an active investigation with many spinoffs. Because I also want to know how does it happen in a halfway house. But let me preface this by saying we need transition housing from people getting out of prison that are on parole, waiting to get on their feet. And just like any other profession or any other system, 99% of the time it works the way it's supposed to. But when you have people like Tiggs that are violent predators, they will find ways around the stopgaps. They'll find ways to break down security barriers, and they'll find people that they can do this to. That's how it happened. I can tell you that many of these transition houses, there's a greater need than there is supply. So you're pushing a ton of people through, and sometimes things get missed. Do I think that halfway house has culpability or had intention or known about it? Our investigation thus far says no.
In terms of the fentanyl case, is fentanyl a problem in this community?
Is fentanyl a problem in this community? It's a problem in this country. And, you hear about this, and many times we dismiss it because it's not close to home. And we bring these stories because we don't want a loved one to get caught up into what they think is a drug they're used to, and next thing you know, they're fighting for their life. There are people watching right now, and there are people that are listening who know all too well the personal touch of addictions. Fentanyl is the worst drug that has taken our people in modern day. We have 137 people in Genesee County since January 1st that have died from just fentanyl overdoses. There's nothing more that's killed more people, non-medical related. I'm not talking about cancers and heart issues. Those are medical conditions. These are traumatic situations. So I don't know of another thing that's causing that much, not crashes, not shootings, not stabbings, no nothing. And I talked to our friends over at a particular emergency room in the area, and they're seeing such, not only just an increase, but also the concentration of fentanyl, where you can get it just by grabbing clothes, you can get it by inhaling, and the powder is so finite that you don't even know you're exposed, just like in Forrest's case. He went from saving a life to fighting for his own within just a few minutes.
Well, that's something I want to ask about fentanyl because, if you look at oxy or pills, you can hold a pill and it's not going to infect you. You can hold cocaine or you can hold heroin and it's not going to transfer through your skin and risk an overdose. Fentanyl is different then?
It is. The question is, how can you hold some medications, and why is fentanyl so different? Well, let me just start by saying the majority of the pills that we get have a coating on them. So there's no sublingual or absorbing character that's going to allow you to absorb it in your skin. If you hold it long enough, you'll see sometimes the coating starts to rub off. You can see it discolored. The reason fentanyl is so dangerous is because there's no regulation on its concentration. Fentanyl is a synthetic opiate that can be made and manufactured by anyone, anywhere in the world, and what you think you're getting, as an example, is a 20% concentration that's been cut down. Then the next time you're exposed is a 40% concentration because it's been cut less, and now you are overdosed. And that's why we call it the dragon. Once the dragon's released, you cannot stop the dragon. And that's what's happening. There's no regulation. And then when you look at the fact that it's not a pill form, there's no safety coating, it's powder. It's a very fine powder that has become now an aerosol. And if you look at all the things in your face, your mouth, the nares of your nose, your eyes, those immediately absorb right into your blood system. And that's why it impacts so quick. And that's why nasal Narcan works so well. Because when you give that dose of missed Narcan, it's immediately absorbed and it is an antagonist to the actual opiate itself. That's why it's so dangerous. The concentration, the availability, and the fact that it's so finite, even a trained medic didn't see it until he was affected.
Has this happened before in this office, in the jail, where a deputy was exposed to fentanyl?
So I'm thankful to say it's the first time it's happened that we know of this bad. I gotta believe that certainly our medics, we have 28 licensed medics that work the street every day from the sheriff's office. I would be remiss to say that they've never been exposed to it, treating the patient population, answering 25,000 medicals a year. But this is the first we've ever had that we almost lost somebody. We've had people overdose in our lobby. People, just a couple months ago, Captain Nelson and another deputy ran outside because there was an overdose in our front lot. The loved one drove in a panic, ran in. We have it all on video. So that is very common. Our staff, by God's grace, they have not been exposed more than they already have. Well, again, I just want to say thank you. Use this message as an education piece. And use what happened to Bradley, to the inmate, to Deputy Hall, to what it does to other people. If you have that in your family and you don't have Narcan, you get it today. Don't wait. It's as important as a carbon monoxide detector and a smoke detector. That is a must. And as far as you, if you're a victim, whether it's Tiggs or anybody else, you can trust us. You can call 911. You can trust the law enforcement. If you need some direction, even if you're not from our county, we'll get you to the right spots. But victims have a voice, and we want to give it to you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Up on ours.
Good, I'm down.
Did anybody want to do individual interviews?